All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is week two lesson. I want to go back and refer to the video that you watched through Cengage. Well, first let's start here. Chapter 2. I want you to read the chapter, and then here's the introduction video. When you click on this link, it'll take you to this video, which you've probably already watched.
We're going to create our first web page and have
create your first web page. The way he lays this out, you can do it this way. I guess this is a good way to learn. I just can't stand it, and you'll never work in a production environment, or you probably never do anything like this. I guess there's a few people who just prefer it, but generally you're going to use some integrated development environment, or IDE. Let's see. This is kind of how, first off, he's using a Mac, and I don't know how many of you are using a Mac, but I never do. I always use Windows, so this is more like what it'll look like. You'll probably use Notepad here on the right, and you got your standard stuff put in here. I wanted to show you something other than Notepad. There's a program called Notepad++, and I have put a link in the course that will take you to its website. I'll figure out which one this is. Yeah, it'll take you to Notepad++. Download the newest one, install it. It's free, and I like the way it works better. It just looks nicer. It's still just a notepad, doesn't put any garbage in it, but you can see it starts to get your indents correct, and it shows you where the head, so it shows you the head start and stop here in this, and then it shows you HTML start and stop, and you can collapse everything, collapse the head, collapse the body. It's better than Notepad. It's Notepad+. It's better. So if you want to continue doing it the way that they show you in the video, this is a good way to do it. You can see here, this is my file explorer, and this is the HTML file that we're looking at. IN Chapter 2 assignment. Another option I wanted to show you was an IDE, and this is something that you will probably use later in the course anyway. Maybe. I can't remember if it was on that software list or not, but this is Microsoft Visual Studio, and it's a nice program. It's not really made for HTML, CSS. It is made for all the other languages, and there's a whole lot of them. If you want to, you can go to this link. I put a link in the course. Visual Studio, download Visual Studio, and you want the Community Edition. The Community Edition is free. And I'm sorry if you can hear my dog, my puppy in the background. She's whining. But the Community Edition is free, and you can use that for anything. I like Visual Studio for a couple of different reasons. First off, you don't have to have all those windows open. You can see here that I've got, I'm looking at the folder, and everything that will be in that folder will be right here. And then it's better than Notepad+. Well, I say better, but again, this is made for different languages. So you can write a C console, Visual Basic, C#, Blazor WebAssembly, .NET, Azure Functions. I mean, this is a very robust tool for doing a lot of programming. So, and it's nice when you can get one program that does a lot of different things. So you get used to the layout, you know what the buttons do, you know where they are, you know how it looks, and it's familiar. So that's always good. You can also I do a lot of Python in this too, and I know there's other stuff I don't even know. Python application, the Python web plugin, Django. That's all web stuff, using Python. But I just wanted to show you these tools real quick so that you were aware that they existed, and you certainly can use them on this course. One thing to note about using Visual Studio, they call everything a solution, and when you create the project in there, it will have this .vs folder. You won't need to upload that for anything. You don't need it to work with anything. It's just for the program itself. so you don't have to worry about that. But in the folder for your HTML projects in the future, you're probably going to have multiple folders in here. You're going to have your CSS, you're going to have your JavaScript, any images, videos, and I like to keep everything really nice and neat. Now the first page that you land on when you go to a website is usually the index, but I don't think we need to worry about that. I leave all my HTML pages out and then have the links into the folders for the different content that I want. Right now you're not going to worry about that. For this assignment, we're only in Chapter 2. Just keep that in mind for future chapters. In Chapter 2, you're going to have 2 files. And we can just make this a text document, and we'll change the extension. Let's just do this. Names get too long. It's going to be your CSS, your cascading style sheet. And we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. We have a wide range of people in the class, some that really have no HTML experience, and one of you has a bachelor's degree. You're probably smarter than I am. But so I'm going to start from the beginning. This is not an HTML class, so I'm only going to brush over it. But if you already know all this, skip ahead. In the video, they show him. Well, he shows
CSS.
Yeah, he shows his CSS.
Just gonna add my table tags here.
Somewhere in the video.
That describes
where he does this.
In text
the pause button. Where he does this style type, text, CSS, body, background, color. You can do that. I'm not a fan of putting the CSS in the HTML file. I believe that it needs to be an external file, and put in its own folder. If you have multiple style sheets, they should be put in a folder. If you only have one that covers multiple pages, I guess it doesn't really need its own folder. That is my preference. You do it how you want to. I just think it's cleaner when there's just HTML on a page and then it links out to an external file. And I will show you how to do that. It is covered in the book, but if we, up here in the title, you've got your up here in the head, you have your title, goes in the head, and then you link your style sheets. Oh my goodness. Sorry, my keyboard's offset, so I often fat finger stuff. And I'm using, so again, this is, I'm using Notepad. I'm not sure if it catches typos when you're using, let's see. It will definitely count typos, but I don't know if it will capture, like if you miss a colon or something, because so it puts those in there for you, so you don't have to think about it. Text CSS right there, you just hit enter, and it works. And this is again in Visual Studio. Man, what did I call it? So again in Visual Studio, you just look right over here. I always forget what I named my files. Be nice if it kind of auto-filled or gave you a everything. Yeah, and it kind of, I just typed this and it gave me the little closing bracket that I forgot to put in there, so that's cool. I can't tell if it's highlighted or not. Yeah, okay. My screen's dim. All right, but back to this, just so you can see what we're doing. This will call out to this file, the CSS file, and then the browser knows to style the page using this CSS file. So if we open that, let's do alright, this is going to get ugly. And this is why I don't like doing this mess. In the IDE, everything's nice and clean. You've got tabs and everything. So there's no content in here yet, but I can go ahead and style the body if I wanted to. And make the background blue. I always forget. Semicolon? Yeah, that's right. You gotta save this one, then save this one, and then go over here and hit refresh, and boom, you can see that the back of your web page is blue. So the browser knows, because this is an HTML file, it looks in the head for links to style sheets and finds the style sheet and uses it to style the page. Again, I'm gonna go files and change. Yep. I am going to I'm going to close these out. And I'm going to just work in here. I'm not saving it because I changed this stuff in the other. Alright, so I can open up the CSS and the HTML. One thing that I like to do that isn't mentioned, and this is again preference, somebody taught this to me years ago, and it's just something that stuck. What I like to do on all of my web pages is you have the body, and then I like to make a div, and I think I'm not sure if he went over divs or not. A div is a box. The whole web page is all just a bunch of boxes put in there, and then you kind of blend the colors to make it look like they're not boxes, but everything's a box. So the first thing I like to do is make a div, give it an ID of a wrapper, not like 50 Cent, but you know. And then all of my content goes in here. I think I can then split up top, bottom, middle, left, right, however I want to do it, but I use this wrapper. And that gives me the ability to keep everything centered on a page. If we go into this here, we can see that the wrapper and we can make the background green. And I always make it 960 pixels wide and margin auto. Now what this does, I'm going to file, save all, and then what this does, let's refresh this. I can give it a height. And there's no content in it, so let's just 5. This the one drawback. Oh, come on. All right, the one drawback to using the IDE is that you have to bounce back and forth between the browser itself. Of course, if you got multiple monitors and you just leave it on another monitor or something and just hit refresh, that works better. But I'm working everything here on this one monitor. So the wrapper, back to it, is this green thing. The background is the whole everything. So here you can get really creative with your design. But when you're working with mobile stuff, and there'll be some other things that we do to get this to work better, but when you're working with mobile, you don't know if their phone's going to be upright, landscape, or portrait. But this allows the window, it's gonna keep that minimum width of 960, and we'll probably change that to percentage later, but it's going to keep that width and it's going to keep the height. It won't get any smaller than that, so it won't move. But if the screens get bigger, that margin auto keeps it right in the center of wherever the viewer is looking at it, and I just like that. The things that I've done in the past, sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it isn't. That's a trick I like, and that way I know everything's uniform. Then I can change, put the top, middle, bottom, left, right, or however I want to organize the application inside the wrapper, and then nothing changes. I can keep those static. I can, if I prefer them to be a right size or whatever. That's just a little tidbit of information, something that I do that he didn't touch on in the video. So where were we? Okay, in the project coming up, we've got to do some tables and some lists. So inside the wrapper, and I like this, we can do a list. There's ordered lists. It's an ordered list and a list item. If you didn't understand this in the video. And then for every item you want to put in there, 2, 3, 4, and then save it. Refresh. There is your list. This is an ordered list. It gives you numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can do lists within the lists. I think that's something that you'll have to do. So that'd be an unordered list, and then list item, sub item 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is what a list within a list looks. So item 1 and sub item 1, 2, 3, 4, and item 2. If I show you, you'll do that. And then you will do a table, I believe. Tables are nice, and you'll find that you can use this for a lot of content on a page too. And this way, you can specify the table sizes and all, and it makes it very nice looking. So it's table. There's a head, but I don't think we're using that. Table head, TH. I don't know that we're using that in this project. But then there's table row, and then table data. And that table data is going to be, let's see, row 1, all 1. And this maybe will help you understand how tables work. So this is all going to be in the same row. Let's stop and see how this looks. Oh my goodness, I got too much stuff going on. So you got row 1, column 1, row 1, column 2, row 1, column 3. Let's put a border on that. We'll go to our CSS file, and we'll do table. Let's see. This is another reason why I like using an IDE, because I can't remember all this stuff. You know, how often you make a dashed or a groove border, or, you know, there's so many different options that I can't remember all. So the IDEs help you and, you know, put the stuff up there for you. It's a whole lot nicer. Let's do a solid border. So that's awesome. It gives you this little syntax things. The border, it's got to have you can specify the thickness of it pixel wise. Solid dash, you can specify solid dash, double groove hidden, and then you can specify color. So when you do your own, you say I want this to be 2 pixels solid, and we'll do red. Yeah, that sounds great. And then save all, go back to your web thing, and it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Is it the commas here? Yeah, there we go. Okay, no commas. When you start having a bunch of languages in your head, the syntax gets really crossed. So that is the whole table. Now, a couple of things with CSS and HTML. If you have a bunch of tables in your web page, you've got a bunch of tables, you may want to give these an ID. And let's do this. We'll just copy it. And this will be table 2. Or you can do classes. I tend to do IDs. I don't know, maybe it's preferable that you do classes. Either way. And I don't know if we'll touch on this or not. This is not an HTML class, but I'm trying to help those who haven't seen this before. So if we go into the CSS, and then to know an ID, you do this little hashtag, # if you're old, and then table 2. So we can make this dashed and yellow. I'll save all. So they got 2 tables. They have different IDs, so you can style them differently. That helps. It's just these are all little tidbits of information you may want to use later on. That's the whole table, though. If we want to style the table 1, table data, you can do the row, you can do the header, you can do the data, you can specify, you can get down as specific as you want to. So all. So now each one of the table data has that border. This is just a for instance again to help you with the assignment later in the chapter. This is fairly easy. Next week we'll get into some harder stuff, maybe. Let's see, what else was I going to talk about? So this week your assignment, let me pull up the course. Can't find it, there it is. Alright, this week, read the chapter. There's going to be a lot more stuff in the reading than in any of the videos, so really try and read it and understand each one of the concepts. And this is the way the course is going to run, I think, from here on out. You're going to have the reading. There's going to be some videos provided by Cengage. I'm going to try and do a video to give you a little more that I think needs to be in there. If I know of any free software that we can use that you may like, I'm going to throw that in there. The self-test exercises and the review assignment and the quiz, this is all going to be pretty, this is probably what you're going to have just about every week. Now, if we go into Chapter 2, self-test exercises. If you can answer all these, I mean, just go, if you can't answer them, look them up, write it down, save it somewhere. I think that these will be helpful on your quizzes. And you know, these are the main takeaways from each chapter. So try and answer all of these. And then we have, after this, there's some programming exercises. And this week, you know, they want you to do all this stuff. I kind of condensed that you're going to do most of this, if not all of it. But it's going to be it's going to look like this. So you got a header, another header, a paragraph, centered. Remember what I told you about the margins? You can center this or not, the tables. I just want to make sure you know how to do lists properly and the table properly, border background. It's just going to it's going to illustrate what we just talked about. It's a pretty simple assignment. All this stuff is simple. So if you're looking at the course and you're feeling a little overwhelmed, none of it really will take that long. If you have any questions, please send me an email. And that's it. Thank you.